welcome to your LSU Football Fix. I am Preston Guy with TigerBait.com. Our show today is presented by Tramonte's Meat and Seafood. I'm very excited for the conversation we're going to have today. I've got Ryan Aber of The Oklahoman coming in today. He's an Oklahoma insider, covers the team, and does an incredible job. One of the fun things I like about Ryan is he's very engaging with the fans and a fun guy to talk to. He's done Reddit AMAs and kind of had him on my radar for a while as I've honed in as Lincoln Riley is my first guy you make say no for this LSU coaching job. Of course, LSU is up big at halftime over ULM in basketball. Will Wade and company are booting up strong. So, maybe we'll have a little bit of a weaker live audience, but hopefully you can come in and watch later on. Of course, this is your football fix, so we're not going to be talking too much basketball and not much to talk about. Darius Days is a monster on the court tonight. And what I find funny is I kind of knew this headline was going to stir the pot a little bit. Of course, about 3-4 days ago, Lincoln Riley kind of turned up as a lot of buzz was coming up around him right after buzz was popping up with Jimbo Fisher. Those are your two leading names right now. Do I know if LSU has a legitimate chance to hire Lincoln Riley? Honestly, I'm legitimately not 100% sure, but what I am 100% sure about is that he's an incredible football coach. He is an offensive and quarterback guru. Half of his quarterbacks who have been eligible to win the Heisman Trophy, meaning so there's only been 4 Heisman trophies handed out since he's been a head coach. His quarterbacks have won 2 of them. His yards per game rankings while at Oklahoma this year, his offense has taken such a big step back under, the quarterback shuffle going on with Spencer Rattler to Caleb Williams, who, by the way, I talked to Caleb Williams in recruiting. He's a fantastic young man, and I'm not surprised in the least bit that he's having the success he's having. It's all the way down to 11th. Woo, big scary, guys. So he's had the 11th, 10th, 3rd, first and first ranked offenses during his time at Oklahoma. He has an 870 win percentage. That is the highest win percentage of any football coach at the FBS level that has been hired in 100 years. Let me say that again. 100 years. Newt Rockne of Notre Dame got hired in 1918. That is 103 years. It has been 103 years since a football coach was hired in an FBS program and went on to have a career winning percentage higher than Lincoln Riley's. Do not throw context at me. I don't care. That is incredible to me. I'm very interested to hear from someone who has covered the programs during his whole tenure. And without further ado, looks like he's here. Ryan, looks like you're ready. Yeah, I'm going to bring him on in. Ryan, how are you, man? Thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, doing great. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Yeah, man. Well, people are very interested about Lincoln Riley. I did a straw poll for LSU next coaching, who they would want to be the next coach, not who they think it would end up being, just if you got to pick one. And Lincoln Riley was the number one choice for LSU fans. And of course, LSU, I think, has elevated its status as a job. So a lot of people are kind of sitting there feeling like they can go out and hire anybody, My question to you is, and what made the news even more interesting was today we got thrown a curveball. He abruptly did not show up for his own press conference and with no heads up. Do you have any idea what's going on with that?
Yeah, not exactly sure what's going on right now. He was actually supposed to do a coach's show, radio show tonight, Tuesday night, and one of the other assistants filled in for him on that. So will be interesting to see, what happens with Lincoln Riley over the next few days, but certainly it seems like there's something going on there. Not saying LSU related at all, but just internally, this is something that Lincoln Riley doesn't really do. So I don't know if it's an illness situation or something else going on, but certainly will be interesting to follow Lincoln Riley's status, especially as they get ready for a big game Saturday on the road at Baylor.
Yeah, and that's LSU former defensive coordinator Dave Aranda, who has also been thrown around in this LSU coaching search. And I think he's also a brilliant mind. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of respect. You saw the resume. I just went down of Lincoln Riley. I have the utmost respect for him. So has there been any kind of like whispers or rumors, even like among like Sooner forum chat about what it could be? Because what the rumors are saying on LSU forums right now. And I'm pretty sure you might even get that a little bit on the Dallas Cowboy forum boards. What are the rumors floating around right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the things that you hear are one, people wondering if it's related to another job. I don't see that as being the case, just because Lincoln Riley is so conscious of making sure that even when he's had these flirtations, things like that, it doesn't take away from his day-to-day job. And coming off the press conference comes directly off of their Tuesday practice. They literally walk in from the practice field to the facility, and Lincoln Riley jumps on an elevator and gets up there in front of us and talks every Tuesday. So I don't believe that that's the case. But the other one, as I mentioned earlier, is illness. Whether it's COVID or something else.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what's keeping him away? And what does that mean for his status on Saturday?
Yeah, and all very interesting things. And Dave Aranda's got an excellent ball club for the Sooners to take on for sure. So we'll have to kind of sit around and wait. Let me ask this: around Norman, is there does anybody consider this LSU job like a potential threat? And look, I've got 22 comments before this video started about how I've heard it's pie in the sky. I've heard lateral move, and I get Oklahoma's an incredible job, and I get is good. Are any Sooner fans actually considering LSU a threat to hire Lincoln Riley?
Yeah, I think certainly some are, because of several factors. One, the money that LSU would be able to throw at them. Now you can make arguments about which job is better as far as job security, as far as long-term future, things like that. But certainly LSU has proven that, one, it can pay very well, and two, that they can contend and win national championships, even in that division and that conference that they're in, which obviously OU is fixing to make that move before too long. So yeah, I don't think there are many places in college football that Lincoln Riley would seriously consider, or that OU fans would seriously consider to be threatened by when they talk about the possibility of Lincoln Riley leaving. But certainly LSU is one of those that at least is in that discussion among teams that they've got a chance to that has a chance to come in and pick Lincoln Riley off.
Yeah. And of course, we've discussed ad nauseum on this show the national perception of the LSU job being very elite for those watching tonight. And that he's alluding to a lot of those things we've broken down: last three coaches winning national titles, that kind of stuff. What I'm interested is, a lot of people have talked about the SEC move for Oklahoma, which, by the way, I love, with a big capital L, Texas and OU coming to the SEC, not just for bringing those proud programs, incredible programs, to the SEC, but also for what it's going to do for the conference in terms of balancing the conference equity. I love the pod setup. I love the Big 12 pod people are talking about having, and all those rivalries renewed. But I'm very interested. Is there any fear that maybe the very consistent success that's been sustained at Oklahoma throughout the decades may take a step back by moving to this conference? Is there any concern about that, similar to what we saw with West Virginia when they had all that success in the Big East, and then they moved to the Big 12 and just have not been able to sustain it?
Yeah, I think certainly there's some wonder there. Although I will say, while West Virginia certainly had a great deal of success in the Big East, it's a little bit different animal, West Virginia versus Oklahoma football. But
Of course,
the thought is, yes, OU, the win total isn't going to be what it is right now in the Big 12, because you're just not going to be able to rack up those kinds of wins year in and year out that the Sooners have done especially when you look over this last seven-year stretch where they've just completely dominated the Big 12. Now, the trade-off of that is if you're able to get through that and win the SEC and make the college football playoff, then you're in much better shape to be successful once you make it. And I think that that's the biggest thing. When you look at OU, especially recruiting in two key areas on the defensive line, where it's been a struggle for them to get big time, 4 and 5 star guys up front, unless they're homegrown, unless it's a guy like Gerald McCoy. And then in the secondary, where it's really tough to recruit in this conference as well. I think that they're thinking their recruiting base will get a little bit better. Those chances of going down into Texas and getting some of those guys that haven't really considered them over the last few years, going into other states and being successful defensively recruiting. I think they certainly feel good about those chances. So it's a bit of a trade-off. And those two things are fairly equal, but then you throw in the money part of it, and all of a sudden it's a no-brainer to make that move. So I think there are some OU fans who are a little bit concerned about it as far as the year-to-year win totals, but on balance, I think most people are excited because of what it means for recruiting, because of what it means for money, because of what it means for attractive home matchups for this team that are conference games, because they don't have a lot of them now, with Texas always being a neutral site game. Obviously, Bedlam is always a big deal against Oklahoma State, but outside of that, there's not a whole lot of teams that really move the needle. But when you've got LSU, when you've got Alabama, when you've got Auburn, when you've got an Arkansas team that OU hasn't played in forever, even though they're right down the road, certainly the renewal of the rivalries against Texas A&M and Missouri, those schedules look a whole lot better in the SEC versus the Big 12.
For sure. So anytime you're having a conversation about a guy like Lincoln Riley at a school like Oklahoma with the sustained success he's had, you kind of have to get crafty with your arguments about, well, why might he want to leave this school? Because it's never going to be like looking like, a situation like, so Billy Napier is a candidate at UL Lafayette right up the road at LSU. It's like, okay, it's pretty obvious why you would see he would leave for UL Lafayette for LSU. You kind of have to get crafty. We're going to go into those in a bit, kind of one by one, just little factor. But my question, how married is Lincoln Riley to Oklahoma? And can you confirm whether or not it is true that he has dogs named Boomer and Sooner? Because I read that on Wikipedia and I have not gotten anybody to validate that claim.
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure what Lincoln Riley's dogs are named, but he is very entrenched here. I mean, when you talk about Bob Stoops bringing him in for the offensive coordinator job before the 2015 season, his ties to the Big 12 in general, being at Tech, both as a player and a head coach and an assistant coach before that, and just the way that he's really integrated into that athletic department. The stability, which is one of the big drawing cards of the OU job, and talking about athletic director Joe Castiglione, who's been there for well over 20 years at this point. The presidency, which has been pretty stable, changed a couple times the last couple years, but Joe Harris certainly seems to fit into the mold of the rest of the leadership guys that they've got in place. So Lincoln Riley has certainly ingratiated himself at OU, and I think it would take something really big and really special to lure him away from that. And I think it'd be really difficult for him to find that at the college level. But certainly, like you mentioned, there are factors that makes LSU a very attractive option for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. And so on the money, you mentioned that your comment about the money LSU might offer kind of caught me by surprise, because it's been my understanding that Oklahoma has as much money as they need to match whatever offer. So is there a real concern that LSU could outbid Oklahoma money-wise? Is there a money concern at Oklahoma? And B, we've done our best to kind of research what his buyout would be. My best answer is around $10 million is what I've looked into. Do you have any more information about that buyout?
Yeah, that sounds about right. I haven't taken a deep look into his contract recently with that, but I believe that's right around the ballpark. Now, I do think OU would be able to match almost anything that would be able to be thrown out there, but certainly you can see boosters going, above and beyond to try to lure a guy like Lincoln Riley, because it is going to take something sort of astronomical. And then on the other end, just the history of Joe Castiglione at OU, he's not going to step out and do something as much as he wants to keep Lincoln Riley, and certainly he will make every effort to keep Lincoln Riley there should it come to that. But he's also not going to put the program in a position where, a thing like, for instance, I go back to basketball with what happened here in the state with Oklahoma State and Travis Ford a few years ago, where they get themselves in a bad position because of throwing a lot of money at a coach that wound up not working. Now, I don't think Lincoln Riley is not going to work,
right?
But Joe Castiglione is very cognizant of finances, and they are very proud of the fact that they're one of the few athletic departments in the country that's completely self-sustaining. So I don't think he's going to go out and do something just stupid, where you see other programs do those type of things to try to lure, coaches with this kind of reputation.
That's very, very interesting. And that same kind of angle was a major storyline in the last time LSU hired a coach with the former administration and the former athletic director of, yeah, we have the money, but why would we do this? And, it kept coming down to, we have this guy Ogeron who's doing pretty good. And they kind of, got caught in a similar angle, not to mention back then state budget cuts to education were a major factor. So the president of the university got involved. So very interesting parallels there. So one of the major criticisms, in fact, it's really funny how people will criticize Lincoln Riley's success at Oklahoma as if they can find another candidate who has less to criticize. Let's go after Lane Kiffin because he's won at levels Lincoln Riley has.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the only two names you can throw out there are Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney as far as guys.
Well, even Dabo Swinney is look what he's doing this year. Lincoln Riley's never had that. Look, right. Lincoln Riley's got the highest FBS win percentage of any coach hired in 103 years. That is something to me. But my question is that, is there a perception that there might be a ceiling at Oklahoma that makes it tough for him to break through and actually get those playoff wins when LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama lines up with an A squad? Is there a perception that talent or whatever resource he may need to break through to that level might not be there?
I think certainly if you were looking at things pre-July, you could say that, maybe there was, because of the recruiting factors on defense that I mentioned earlier. We've seen the way that OU, once they've made the playoff, has really struggled in the trenches, especially on the defensive side, to get much pressure against the Alabamas and the Clemsons of the world. So I think, before this move to the SEC was announced, you would say, yes, there are, factors that makes you wonder if they can have success in the playoff and certainly sustain success in the playoff, like some of these other programs, or the two other programs at this point that we're talking about, or I guess you could throw Ohio State in there as a third. But with the move to the SEC, you alleviate those recruiting concerns. Certainly, I think OU has taken steps forward recruiting defensively, even to this point, and I think that the belief is that they'll continue to do that with the move to the SEC whenever that happens. So I think that thought or that line of thinking has sort of gone by the wayside a little bit with this impending move to the SEC.
Are you currently aware of any communications that either Lincoln Riley or his agent has had with any team that's interested in his services this season?
No, I am not aware of that. That's something that we haven't heard much concrete about. I think there's a very limited pool of teams that could even get close to enticing Lincoln Riley to leave. Now, I think there may be another group of others that could be used as a little bit of leverage to sweeten things at OU, whether that's monetarily or money for assistance, things like that. So you could see something like that happening. But the list of schools that he would, or the list of places he would leave for, is really small. And you think about making the leap even to the NFL. I think the list of NFL teams that he would consider is really small because it would be basically the Cowboys and potentially a team that has a lot of history and they're going to be able to be successful. This isn't a thing where he's just itching to leave and is going to leave at the first opportunity that's even close to being equal. It's something I think he would have to see a very clear benefit to, which is ultimately why I see him staying at Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm. And you heard that his prediction is that Lincoln Riley stays at Oklahoma, which if you're a betting man, that would be your favorite bet because it's just very difficult to pull guys like that. Is Lincoln Riley passionate about recruiting? Because I think that'd be a pretty good indicator whether or not his interest would be just get stay at the best college job he can find, or if he wants to go to the NFL. How is he known as a recruiter?
Yeah, I think that's the right word to use is passionate. Is he attacks recruiting the way he attacks winning games on Saturdays, and you saw I just completely blanked on the name of the guy that he pulled a couple years ago on signing day, but there's a video of his reaction when he learns of that commitment, a guy that they went after at the last minute, and you would have thought that they just won the Big 12 championship or won a college football playoff game. He was running around his office going nuts. That is something that Lincoln Riley is so much different at than I think a lot of other college coaches, because a lot of coaches talk about liking recruiting, but in reality, it's one of the things that can drive them out of the business quicker than anything else, which is his reaction to, or the way that he handles recruiting, I think is one of the big reasons why he's not going to leave to the NFL unless it's one of those marquee jobs. He still has a fire for it. He's overhauled OU's recruiting, starting since he'd been there, but certainly since he replaced Bob Stoops as the head coach. They've modernized it. The Champ U barbecue event that they have every summer has become such a big part of their recruiting push. This year they had really expensive sports cars and things like that lined up on the field, had all kinds of stuff going on, all kinds of alums there talking to the players. So they pretty much had a player at every position who had either was in the NFL or had been in the NFL to talk to about their experience with OU. So I say all of that to give you the answer that yes, Lincoln Riley is very invested in recruiting, and it's not something that he's burned out on for sure.
I'd say that's pretty indicative of where he'd like to stay, because if it takes a special kind of person to grind, like that grind of recruiting. And what's interesting to me is he's more known as like an X's and O's guru type guy, and a lot of those guys don't necessarily love the recruiting grind. So that's pretty indicative to me that he would probably likely want to stay at college and not necessarily love the NFL quite the same if that's something he really loves. Perception of the job he's done at OU, because it's an interesting setup. Bob Stoops built that program. into a consistent winner, won a title in 2000. Of course, since 2000, the entire planet seems to have changed, and the entire college football landscape seems to have changed alongside it. Is the perception that Lincoln Riley has just come in and maintained what Bob Stoops built, or is there do Oklahoma fans feel that he's truly elevated it and built it, and his success is strictly because he is an incredible football coach?
Yeah, I think certainly the perception is that Lincoln Riley has absolutely elevated OU's program. The calling card of Bob Stoops's tenure at OU was consistency. The fact that they didn't really have these big dips where they would struggle to even get bowl eligible and things like that. Pretty much that every other program has gone through during that, 22, 23-year span at this point. But what Lincoln Riley did is he's modernized recruiting. He modernized their offense. I mean, we talk about the quarterbacks that he's run through the system, the fact that he was able to get those guys. Now, he obviously got really lucky with having Baker Mayfield already there when he got there. And obviously OU got really lucky that Baker Mayfield showed up, period. But what they did since then with Kyler Murray, with Jalen Hurts, Spencer Rattler, and now on to Caleb Williams has, certainly enhanced what OU was before Lincoln Riley got there, because their offense, it's easy to forget this now. Their offense was really struggling when Lincoln Riley was brought aboard to replace Josh Heupel after that 2014 season and the big loss to Clemson in the Russell Athletic Bowl. And he was able to turn that around almost immediately and has been able to keep up that momentum ever since.
Yeah, it seems like Mike Leach's quarterbacks know the offense better than he does nowadays. It's funny to me, his little coaching tree of his quarterbacks out there, including Lincoln Riley. I haven't got to too many fan questions today. I always try to incorporate a little bit, but it has been very mucky tonight. A lot of controversy on this topic. Fans are not happy about it, but this is a big question in your gut. Okay, I'm going to play Aaron Adams. Okay, this has been the number. LSU it's been discussed quite a bit. 10 years, 12 million. Of course, he laid the foundation with his Jimbo Fisher contract he offered to Texas A&M. This will probably be the contract I would expect LSU to offer a guy like Lincoln Riley. I do think it's likely that Lincoln Riley may say, nah, I don't want it, and stay put. What my question is let's say Lincoln Riley is okay with that. In your gut, do you think Oklahoma would top that or match that?
I think it would be really difficult for them to top that, certainly. Now, they could certainly make a run at matching. They've got some pretty big donors down here as well. But I think that Lincoln Riley would really have to think long and hard about that because of the short-term benefit of that. Now, if it's 10 years guaranteed at $12 million a year, that's just astronomical.
Yes.
And it would be really difficult to walk away from that. But when you look at the goodwill that he's built up at OU, the stability in the athletic department and in the administration at OU, that certainly hasn't been the case at a lot of other places, including LSU. I think it would be really difficult for him to walk away from what he's got here. But that number, I mean, just especially when you think about the numbers we were talking about head coaching wise, just even a few years ago, is just mind numbing to think that somebody would be offering that much money. But that's the world we're living in. And certainly I think those numbers, well, I would say those numbers would continue to go up, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see if that is the case in this sort of post-COVID era. As athletic departments are going to have to streamline a little bit and change things a bit, but there's still that hunger, especially within the heavily moneyed booster base to go out and get guys for that job, head coaching job in football at pretty much whatever cost.
Yeah, and you mentioned about how these numbers are always shocking. It seems like every year there's something shocking. And what stands out to me is Jimbo Fisher about 5 years ago got that contract at Texas A&M. It was shocking. 10 years, fully guaranteed, $75 million. It was unheard of. Well, 5 years later, he's halfway through that contract and he's like the 7th or 8th paid coach in college football, and he's got 5 years left. So basically, if the guy, this is what Woodward banks on, is that if it's a big enough name guy, he'll make it to that 5-year mark. You'll feel pretty comfortable about him, and we'll see from there, because right now Jimbo Fisher's got the same exact contract he would have if he got hired somewhere else at just a, market value, whatever else. So it's funny how to even out. What stands out to me is I remember in the 2003 national title, LSU versus Oklahoma, of course, our teams we cover, it was just earth-shattering news that Nick Saban got paid $2.5 million, one more dollar than Bob Stoops, because that was in his contract to become the highest paid coach if he won. And it was just unheard of that you would pay a football coach $2.5 million. 18 years later, man, how far we've come.
Yeah, it is nuts how things have changed since then, and it's going to be really fascinating to see how they continue to change and evolve, especially in the world of name, image, and likeness, and that money, I think, distributing a little bit differently than it has traditionally. But there's still going to be schools that are going to make these big runs at coaches and throw all kinds of money at them, and no doubt that there's going to be people, programs throwing all kinds of money at Lincoln Riley. As this thing goes on, the question is just, is it going to be enough to lure him away from what he's built and what he's continuing to do in Norman?
That is the $12 million question. Ryan, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. You've been fantastic, as I expected you would. Guys, you're going to want to go give him a follow. If Lincoln Riley is your guy you want for the coaching search, there's few who cover Oklahoma as well as Ryan with the Oklahoman. You're going to want to give him a follow on Twitter and all that good stuff. Ryan, can you tell the people where to keep up with your work?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at RYAber, RYABER, and you can read my work at Oklahoman.com.
All right, that is Ryan Aber. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Ryan. That was a great insight. Very excited to have had him come on, especially coincidentally, we lined him up, and then boom, some Lincoln Riley splash. Y'all stick around, because we're going to get to some comments, because, of course, it's been a little messy tonight. I'd have to do a little bit of filtering. Hard to do an interview and filter and make sure it's all appropriate. So I'm going to get to a few of your comments. Of course, later in the show, we're going to talk about the quarterback situation at LSU. Of course, last week, the Max Johnson stayed in the game the whole time after Garrett Nussmeier had gotten some significant reps against Ole Miss, because the story was that they wanted to preserve his red shirt. And he only had one more game to do that. I'm going to tell you why I'm a little perturbed by it, but it's like you've got a lame duck coach. So what are you going to really do about it? We're going to do some film breakdown, just a quick little breakdown of what in the world happened with LSU's defense. Why was it so successful? So I want to kind of talk about that a little bit. We do have a new little setup tonight. I figured maybe a little bit interesting. I wanted some LSU gear. So if you're popping in and seeing it, you kind of know it's an LSU show. We have the Tramonte's logo on the right-hand corner. Of course, Tramonte's is our sponsor tonight. They're your home gating and tailgating headquarters for the 2021 season, and they are open Saturdays 9 to 5, so you can go in and get your home gating, tailgating food. They are currently doing pre-orders for turkeys, fried, smoked, or rotisserie, so y'all make sure to give them a call. So 225-751-7665, or visit Tramontes.com. Don't forget, every single show, we are selecting a $25 gift card winner to Tramonte's. You do have to go to the store. Every YouTube comment is eligible to win. Okay. Every Facebook share make sure your settings are good to go, is eligible to win. Hey, if you're watching YouTube, hit that like button for me. Mike Scarborough was making fun of me because his show has been getting more likes on there, and that's not okay. Speaking of Mike Scarborough not being as good, starting to realize I like P Guy more than Mike. Maybe P Guy's the new captain. I don't know. I've been on this for a while. The hype. Mike Scarborough is overhyped. Okay, look, 25 years of covering recruiting. Look, man, look, it's all about the young guns. We own this show. We do technology. We have memes. We have knowledge and research. Appreciate that comment there. We're going to get going here. Can LSU really hire Lincoln? I'll save you guys the trouble. No, that's Jesse G. I think it's funny. We got a bunch of OU fans hopping in here, hearing Pie in the Sky. Got some profanity going on tonight. We, of course, do brand ourselves as a clean show. Let's see here. Odds Riley leaves Oklahoma. That's Blaine Smith. Blaine Smith is in our comments every week. By the way, we got a ton of comments tonight. So if you really got something you want to say, don't be afraid to put a super chat up there, and I'll guarantee your comment goes up there. So another thing Mike Scarborough was making fun of me for is not getting as many super chats as he does. So if you want to help your brother out, Let's see here. Odds. Well, Scott Rabelais of The Advocate put out 35-1. And his main reason for saying Lincoln Riley would not take the LSU job is, well, because he'll be in the playoff and LSU needs a coach before January. No, that's not the way this works. You don't hire a football coach to preserve a recruiting class. You don't. You do need to have him in place eventually, but if you have to wait until the football season is over, then you wait for your guy. And I think it's a little bit of this small LSU thinking that a lot of people have done. It's this, we just got to hire someone who makes sense, someone who's there, someone who's easy to attain. If you're an elite program, you go get your guy and you make them say no, and you do what you got to do. Let's see here. Someone says, let's see here. People saying Jimbo is a smokescreen. I think it's legitimate, and I don't think Jimbo's as bad a football coach as you might be thinking. One of the things that stood out to me is what is Florida State as a program before and after Jimbo? Before he got there, yes, okay, Bobby Bowden had him rolling in the 80s and 90s, but that program was falling apart. Maybe that program's not as great as just a program by itself as we might be thinking. He brought it to a championship and had one meh season. Okay. If you tally up the success of Jimbo Fisher and compare it to other coaches, by the way, he does have a very high winning percentage, and about 75% of his games he's won. It probably ranks very highly amongst current coaches as most successful current coaches. Some down-ish seasons, and it's been weird to me how long it's taken to find a quarterback and get things going at Texas A&M. But look at Texas A&M before Jimbo Fisher. When has Texas A&M ever won anything of any significance? It's been about 100 years since they won a national championship. They were kind of a perennial 500 team in the Big 12, and they've stepped it up a little bit in the SEC. But I'm thinking that Texas A&M is not nearly as easy to win at as we might have had the perception of, because they have all this money. Yes, they have all the money, but I'm not sure that they have the athletes at the level of a lot of like top tier teams like LSU wanting to come play for them, or even Texas for that matter. Because in Texas, there's a lot of talent there, but you're splitting it along with a bunch of people. I'm wondering if Jimbo is just at a program that's harder to win at. And by the way, my reasons, if Lincoln Riley were to come, because I'm never going to sit here and tell you he's coming to LSU, because it's far-fetched. But at this point, no coach has great odds, because you're splitting it. Like, seems like 10 ways you're splitting it. If he were to come, it is because he realizes that his stock is at an all-time high right now. Like I said, he is the highest win percentage of any FBS coach hired in the last 100 years. You'd go back to 1918 to find one higher. And to clarify on that number, that is coaches with 50 plus years and their total record at all FBS schools. There's a handful of coaches at one school, such as Nick Saban at Alabama, has a slightly higher win percentage than Lincoln Riley. How much higher? Let's put it like this. If Lincoln Riley would have beaten Alabama, his would be higher. So it's literally a ball game apart. Let's get to your comments here. Man, we got some people fighting. All right, Aaron Adams put out his top four. Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley is my number one guy. You make say no first. He has been from day one. He will be till the end. There's nobody with a stronger resume. Fickle's right up there for me too. He was in my top 3 from day one. Matt Campbell, I think his stock has dropped off tremendously. Then Jimbo. I might have Jimbo around 4 or 5 as well. I don't think Jimbo's a terrible coach at all. I think that's a very good top 4, Aaron Adams. Really well researched, I believe. Let's see here. Y'all are stuck with Mac Johnson. I'm going to touch on that real quick. But before I do that, I gotta thank my sponsor, Tramonte's Meat and Seafood. They're great people, really involved in the Baton Rouge community. Big supporters of LSU. Many LSU football players have enjoyed the Tramonte cuisines throughout the year. You saw last week with Will Blackwell, him talking about the ribeye po' boy, although some people were critiquing the way he eats it and with mayonnaise instead of au jus. Very controversial. I get it. He does deer cleaning and game processing at the shop, Tramonte's Meat and Seafood. They have 30 kinds of meat and sausage. They do ribeye rolls, shrimp rolls, all fantastic, cream cheese and jalapeno wrapped with bacon on the side, on the edge. It is incredible. You will impress your friends. It is the best appetizer, or you can do them as a meal, truth be told. The lunch deli is open till about 3 every day, and it's open on the weekend, so you can go and get a burger, grilled, ribeye, po' boy, all that good stuff. They're located on Jefferson next to Parkview Baptist. Y'all go give them a try, 225-751-7665, or visit Tramontes.com, and we'll be right back.
Tramonte's has meat. Tramonte's has seafood. Tramonte's has much more. Tailgating and homegating platters. Huge wine and liquor selection. Beer and all the spices you need. Chairman Reserve and Wagyu meats. Ribeye rolls, shrimp rolls, kebabs. 20 flavors of sausage for the grill. Daily lunch specials and game processing. On-site catering also available. Good meat ain't cheap and cheap meat ain't good. Visit Tramontes.com.
Thank you, Tramontes. Y'all make sure to hit like, comment, share on this video. I want some thumbs up on the YouTube video in particular today. I get made fun of behind the scenes, and I don't like that. Mike is a guy who will troll you very, very hard. So I need some dubs. Okay, the show's been doing great. We're doing awesome, tons of views. We're getting almost 5,000 views a week on Facebook and YouTube. So I'm very thankful for all of y'all. I just want a little more fuel for the trash talking fire if you're enjoying the show. If not, that's okay. You don't have to support me. Let's see here. Give Preston credit. He's going to get Lincoln a big raise. That's Barry Barbier. Barry, what stood out to me, and I'm really glad I brought on and someone who really knows what they're talking about around Oklahoma, Ryan Aber with the Oklahoman. That is like the major newspaper, and he is the Oklahoma beat writer for all their sports they do there at Oklahoma. And he's like, look, they pride themselves on, we're not going to overpay you. We're not doing this absurd stuff. All right, we're. So that stood out to me. He's already making about $11 million a year. And I think LSU is at the point where they're tired. Fans got sick of hearing the budget cut stuff of, well, LSU can't hire a big name coach because they want a ridiculous contract. Jimbo Fisher wants this ridiculous contract. We can't hire him. I think that has a real sick stomach overturned feeling in their guts for LSU fans. And I think Woodward is one of them, and they're ready to go out and hire a coach no matter the cost. Oh, guys, I forgot to mention TigerBait.com. Got some excellent content we do. We do free and we do premium content about recruiting. National Signing Day is right around the corner. Give it a try for $1. TigerBait.com. More comment. Let's see here. Aranda. People liking Aranda. Of course, Aranda's stock took a minor hit this week. And they lost, but Baylor is still 7-2. Still a great resurrection job that Baylor's done. Of course, the team was terrible last year. He came in, and now he's got things kind of doing better. What was fun to me is I saw some excitement from him on the sideline tonight in that game. And Dave Aranda's been a real calm, cool, and collected guy. I think if Dave Aranda's the guy you have to fall back on, I'm okay with that. In fact, I've got Dave Aranda higher on my board than guys like Billy Napier. I would rather Dave Aranda, even though Billy Napier has a little bit more experience, Dave Aranda has Power 5 experience. And I'm sorry, I've seen the program out there at UL Lafayette. I've seen the things they do, ways they operate, and it's just not at a Power 5 level. It's just the program is just it's a good group of 5 school, but Power 5 schools are a pressure cooker. It's just a whole different league, man. Lincoln Riley would be a good hire. That is Kyle McConnell. All right, let me put this up here. I don't think it'd be a good hire. I think it'd be incredible. He's 54-8 at Oklahoma. He's an offensive guru. He's had 2 Heisman winning quarterbacks. There's only been 4 Heisman awards given out. By the way, he had a 3rd quarterback at the finalist table who got beat out by yours truly, Joe Burrow, whose autograph is sitting above my shoulder, in case you didn't notice the new scenery tonight. His yards per game rankings, this year his offense is at an all-time low during his tenure. Of course, he's been juggling a couple quarterbacks, brought in a new one, Caleb Williams. 11th in the country. That's his big struggle. He's also ranked 10th, 3-1-1. I don't care if it's in the Big 12. That's darn impressive. Very darn impressive. He has an 870 win percentage. He's won just about 90% of his games. That's second all time in FBS history, y'all, for coaches with 50-plus games. Everybody else above him either got hired 100 years ago or coached at some FCS school. Okay, like that's it. So he's got the highest win percentage of any coach that's been hired in the last 100 years. That's an incredible hire. And the cons are, his defenses has struggled. I think Ryan Aber gave some good insight on that. He said, excuse me. He said that they're kind of having trouble getting those guys because there's not a lot of homegrown guys at Oklahoma, and they've had to go into Texas, and they're hoping that joining the SEC will elevate the recruiting. There's no elevative recruiting needed at LSU. This got the best recruiting setup in the country. I think if he's looking to get to that next level, LSU might be it, and that's an incredible hire. All the cons are 0-3 in the playoff, man. Look at any of those playoff games and tell me if, the players that were lining up against those SEC teams, if they were even in the same stratosphere with talent. I think Lincoln Riley is making the absolute most out of a team of players that might not be like, there's just the whole tier below when he gets to those games, and it just doesn't quite look fair. Let's see here. Any other? I got a lot of Joe Brady comments. Let's say it's gotten more likely, but he's struggling at Carolina, and if you were going to hire him, you have to just believe he's the boy wonder, the offensive mastermind. He can make any offense succeed anywhere. He doesn't. None of his other credentials qualify him for the LSU head coaching job. Let's see here. A lot of silly comments. A lot of people going for the former assistants. Like I said, LSU people kind of like what they know. Cheryl Shane does not like Jimbo. Is it Shuin? Cheryl. Tell me how you say your last name. Is it Shuin or do you say it Shane? Got a hunch. All right, let's see here. Lincoln Riley would never leave the gold mine he has at Oklahoma. I think if he leaves, it's because he sees his stocks at an all-time high and wants to cash out on something like a 10-year, $120 million contract. I could see that. If it's 100% guaranteed, similar to what Woodward did, he might say, well, I'm about to join the SEC. I'm probably going to take a loss or two more a year, just realistically speaking. I'm going to cash out while this cash cow is high and LSU's offering a level of money that they won't. Number two, he might see that he's hit a ceiling. I think he's hit a ceiling. I don't think that he has the ability to recruit players at Oklahoma at a level to compete with the Alabamas of the world, to compete at, the levels that Clemson is and Georgia. I don't see it. I don't. I think at LSU he can get there. And what I didn't know was how passionate he was about recruiting, like Ryan was saying tonight. If he likes recruiting, he's going to love LSU. He's going to love it. Those are the reasons why. Yes, it's unlikely. I get it. It's unlikely. Let's see. Jimbo makes a lot of sense. That's the thing. That's why it keeps on getting brought up. There's a lot of reasons why. Let's see here. Gary Williams, Preston, brother, don't listen to those OU fans. We can get Lincoln if we want. However, Scott has a true trick up his sleeve. Yeah, we'll see what that trick is. I mean, that's the thing. People talking about, and this is kind of why I think the Lane Kiffin talk, the Dave Aranda talk, what's Billy Napier, that tier of guys, Mel Tucker squarely in that mix. The talk around them is kind of cooled off a bit, and I think people are starting to realize if Scott Woodward were to hire one of those guys, it would be the most underwhelming hire of his career. And he just fired a championship-winning coach. Hello, championship, confetti on the wall. Joe Burrow, Heisman, greatest season ever. He just fired that guy. And 21 months later, and you're going to come up and get just a kind of a standard, like a chalkboard coach. That's what I mean by chalkboard is, oh yeah, this guy kind of makes sense. He's available. It's a school. It'd be a step up. It'd be easy to plug and play that. No, man, I don't see him going that. And I don't see him going for a guy like Cristobal, former offensive line coach, not much coordinator experience, although a little bit. And about 500 as a coach during his career, got fired from Florida International. I don't see it. I don't. I get why you might like someone like that. I took a Twitter poll yesterday, got over 700 votes, or right at 700 votes. I apologize. And asked people what they were most looking for in LSU's next coach. Nearly 50% of the voters voted for a tactician, schematic guru. And I think that's very, very accurate about guys like Lincoln Riley, even guys like Lane Kiffin, even guys like Dave Aranda. I think people realize the number one thing I criticize by Coach O, and I think this is what people are realizing now. When your head coach does not know X's and O's, and he is reliant on a coordinator to bring those X's and O's to the table, the long-term success of your program is not married to your coach, but married to the coordinators. And the average tenure of a coordinator is 2 years, y'all. And it wasn't 2 years under Ogeron. And we saw that philosophy, A, you have to evaluate and identify who's a great coordinator. B, you have to retain them and keep them. And C, you got to let them coach. And at times he struggled with all three. I think fans want that consistency. They're tired of, Les Miles needs to fire this offensive coordinator and bring in this guy. And then this guy has success for a season and goes. They want someone who's stability at the top. I also think a lot of fans realize that LSU, in a lot of ways, recruits itself. They have no football coach right now. And they have the 12th ranked class in the country with the number one quarterback in the country committed and a 5-star offensive tackle committed with no coach. Do you think that program has an advantage recruiting? Yeah, it does. And I personally believe that if you put effort into recruiting, and because you don't want to recruit and just put no effort into it, you're just not going to be, yeah, of course, you got to be a good recruiter, period. I think if you're a good recruiter, but you're a great football coach, great players will come. You know why Nick Saban gets these insanely good recruiting classes? Hi, son. My name is Nick Saban. Every single recruiting class I've signed since I joined the SEC in 2000 has won a national championship if they stuck around 4 years, and I've put more players in the NFL than anybody else. Would you like to play for Alabama? That's it. That's what he does, man. And I'm not saying he's not a good recruiter, but he's a much better coach. I think he just knows how to translate that on the field success into on recruiting trail success. I don't think LSU fans are super hype about a guy who's a recruiter, and they kind of almost feel like, okay, well, if you're saying he's a recruiter, that's because he lacks something as a coach. So yeah, recruiter was the last ranked option in the poll at 8%. And I think everybody recognized that you need all four, but just what kind of mold are you looking for? Let's see here. Basketball's looking good, says Carl the Cat Dunn. Yeah, it is, man. Darius Days and company boot up. I said, man, man, I wonder if Will Wade can coach football. I'm joking. Nice, making me hungry, Preston. Man, that's the thing about these Tramontes ads. They do good. You know what? The LSU basketball game must have just ended, actually, because I just noticed a bunch of people coming in here. And let's see. That is exactly what 101 to 37. Those kids had a family. Jeez Louise. Man, guys, and look, for the people who just come in, we have over 200 viewers now. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to rewatch this. You're going to have to. The interview with Ryan Aber was so good and so insightful about Lincoln Riley. You're gonna have to rewatch it. And of course, he even dropped the bomb. Lincoln Riley missed a press conference and he missed his nightly coach show tonight, and no one really knows why. So we'll do it. Great show. Like the film study. Thank you, Jim. We do have a little brief film study coming up in a bit. A few more comments here. Let's see. Not sold on the genius of Brady. Burrow and company made the job easy. I mean, there is that. I do think he's a good coordinator. Do I think that he's so brilliant that no matter, I used to think he was so brilliant. I'm going to be honest. I've been wrong, and I'm okay admitting when I'm wrong. I thought he was so brilliant that his offense could be so successful anywhere he went. Well, he's struggling mightily at Carolina. Now, he's got excuses for why he's struggling. They don't have a quarterback. What's his name? The running back guy's been hurt, CMC. But ultimately, you're expected to win. Let's see here. How many titles do you think LSU can win, especially with the right DC? I'm assuming he's talking about with Lincoln Riley. And here's the deal. Lincoln Riley is going to outlast Nick Saban as a football coach by a long shot, by a long time. Let's say they keep – look, man, I could see the sky's the limit. I'm going to put that. I'm not going to slap a number on it, but that is how highly I respect Lincoln Riley. You heard Ryan Aber, who covers that Oklahoma program very, very closely, and he has a tremendous level of respect for what he's accomplished. And he recognizes that, you know, a lot of the recruiting soil around Oklahoma isn't exactly the greatest. Let's see here. Jimbo's offense just don't wow me at all. I get it. Look, I get why you wouldn't like Jimbo. I'm just saying he might not be as bad as you think. I think the programs he's been at might have ceilings that he's kind of hit. Let's see. With coach, LSU had number 3. That's right. And a few guys like Aaron Anderson decommitted and whatnot, and other classes ascended up. Of course, they're only at 14 recruits. Look, if you want a guy and come on here and say that guy's a great recruiter, man, Ogeron was an outstanding recruiter, and he's renowned as one of the best recruiters of all time. Give me a talent evaluator. Give me someone who can hire good coaches. Give me someone who can develop players. Give me someone who can give me good scheme, man. I think a lot of guys. I think a lot of coaches can come in and get a top 10 recruiting class at LSU. I mean, straight up. I really think there's a ton of them. Recruiting is not a priority in terms of skills for the coach. Let's see here. Kiffin, Riley, or Napier. A lot of chalk talk. I think here is the best way I can put Lincoln Riley. Back the Brink trucks up and make him say no. That is my number one make him say no coach. He might not come, probably won't come. Probably unlikely, but you'd be a fool not to get excited. Gary Williams, thank you. You do a superb job each week with your show, with your resources. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate it. Put a lot of work into enhancing the show. I changed up the backdrop a little bit tonight. Joe Burrow was very nice while he was in the hospital with his torn ACL, and I sent him my game story from the national championship. We printed it out, and he signed that for me. So that's kind of the crown jewel. I don't think I've asked players for autographs in about 10 years. I'm not a big autograph guy, but I felt I would make an exception. I've got confetti and my press credentials there too. So a little cool backdrop. If y'all enjoy seeing some more LSU stuff instead of the sponsor flag or step and repeat, let me know. I'm just mixing around with the studio here to kind of figure out what to do. But we're going to go into a little bit of film breakdown. Okay, I'm going to show you a little bit about what Daronte Jones did with his defense this week and why it was successful. Of course, it was a very frustrating loss, and one where, quite frankly, I think Orgeron should have turned to Nussmeier in the second quarter, because it was very abundantly clear to me that they just needed a little spark, even if it's something that, like, just the lack of film on Nussmeier, that might have given them just the shakeup they need. Not that Nussmeier is actually a better quarterback than Max Johnson, just that it's just a little spurt, and he's an exciting quarterback. He could have gone in and thrown 3 interceptions. I don't know, but I could tell you what I was seeing with the offense with Max Johnson in there was not going to be enough to win the game. And 90% of LSU fans agreed with me in my Twitter poll that I did. So explanation was, we don't want to burn his red shirt. Guess what? Press conference this week, Orgeron comes out. We're going to play him 50-50. Talked to his dad, and they were disappointed he didn't get in. What are you doing? I think, honestly, that's a take that we're criticizing Coach O on, because he's just being honest about it. And most times coaches would do some coach speech. I can't tell you how many times it's just abundantly clear, obvious, someone watching it, like, what's going on there. And then coach will come out and say, we did not play him because we did not see a spot for him to come in the game. Think about Les Miles' answer about with Jarrett Lee in the national championship. You don't really get an honest, straightforward answer of, yeah, just drop the ball, whatever. And maybe we got a little bit more transparency from Orgeron, because he's kind of relieved of some pressure right now. Brian and Annie Pinton, by the way, a lot of comments tonight. Very popular show. If you want your comment on the screen before we close the show tonight, give us a super comment. I'll get you taken care of. So Brian and Andy Pinton, LSU just put it on Monroe. Wow, good first one. Wow is right, man. I didn't even, doing this show, I haven't gotten to watch the game. 101-37. Those kids had a family. What? That is massacre. So, yeah, man, Will Wade and company. What a great job they're doing over there. Riley is a good recruiter and great offensive play caller. I think that's exactly right. I think he is the coach you should be going for hardcore. I think he's hit a ceiling at Oklahoma. I think that the cards are there just right enough to have a chance to go for it. So we are going to go into our film study. Before I do that, I want to thank Tramonte's Meat and Seafood, our sponsor for the show tonight. Of course, Tramonte's has been kind enough to offer a $25 gift card if you comment on YouTube or if you go share on Facebook. Also, do me a favor, guys, hit the thumbs up like button on the YouTube page. Mike Scarborough has been harassing me. Man, look, my videos get more this, more that. Give me some thumbs up, please, if you enjoy the show. I'm tired of getting trash talked once I hop off air. Let's see here. We're going to hit the Tramonte commercial, and then we are going to do some film study.
Tramonte's has meat. Tramonte's has seafood. Tramonte's has much more. Tailgating and homegating platters. Huge wine and liquor selection. Beer and all the spices you need. Chairman Reserve and Wagyu meats. Ribeye rolls, shrimp rolls, kebabs. 20 flavors of sausage for the grill. Daily lunch specials and game processing. On-site catering also available. Good meat ain't cheap and cheap meat ain't good. Visit Tramontes.com.
Okay, so got a couple good comments here right before that. I got a little frustrated when I was like, oh man, there's some good comments. Thoughts on Cristobal. My thoughts on Cristobal is I'd be pretty underwhelmed by him, and not because he's a bad coach. I just think there's a lot of better names out there. He's about 500 as a coach in about 10 seasons or so. He did get fired from FIU, and retread coaches have a history of not necessarily having great tenures. There's only been two to win a national championship after getting fired in the last like 50 years or ever. I don't know, and it's Ogeron's one of them. So I'm not nuts over the whole over the whole go for a retread coach. A lot of people like to bring up he's an outstanding recruiter, gets good offensive line. I don't want an offensive line coach. I want a guru. I want someone who's got scheme, because consistency can come with your head coach when he can call plays himself. I don't need a good coordinator. Get this guy out of here. I'll take care of it from here. And I think guys who know offense can figure out defense too. And I think that's one of the things about Nick Saban is he can call defenses at very high levels. That means he understands offenses too, because defenses study offenses, and that's just the mold of the coach that I would prefer. Could we trust Riley to hire a good DC? That's DJ. DJ, I'm going to ask you to rewatch the show when we hop off the very beginning with Ryan Aber. If you weren't here, if you were watching the basketball game, whatever it may have been, Ryan Aber talked about the defensive struggles. He doesn't necessarily believe it's a coordinator problem. He was talking about how hard it is to consistently get talent at Oklahoma, and how sometimes it's hard to find homegrown guys for the trenches, and they have to go into Texas, and they're hoping that joining the SEC will elevate that. Lincoln Riley is a passionate recruiter, but they just can't seem to get the Jimmies and Joes to fill out the entire roster the way they need to be successful on defense. So there's that. I do know this: at LSU, he'll have all the ample resources to go get one. If we get Riley, who do you get to be the DC? I think I've heard a lot of talk of Barry Odom being a very good name to bring in. I'd love to talk to him. I like retread coaches as assistant coaches, not your head coach. But I like what Alabama's done with bringing in all these former head coaches and having a plethora of coaching talent around. What really stood out to me is when we were talking about Ogeron possibly losing his job, the question was, well, who's the interim going to be? Of course, Ogeron ended up being his own interim. But we're like, man, I don't know. I don't know who we're going to bring in, because the coaching talent was very inexperienced for LSU. In fact, you were talking about Steve Ensminger coming in and possibly be the interim. That was my favorite to do it. I was like, screw it. Put Sling a Steve out there, see if he could call some crazy games and go back to retirement after 6 games. But that's kind of evident that the hiring of the coaches had taken a serious step back under Ed Ogeron's end of his tenure at LSU, because you really should be able to have some coaches on your staff are like, yeah, no, he'd be an interim. That'd be a good one to bring in. So I definitely would like to see that. Cristobal can go to Miami next. I think that'd be a good spot for him, actually. Cristobal, man, that's kind of where I'm at, Titus. Good comment. Like he's not a bad coach. I just look at all the other. I'd rather Lane Kiffin over Cristobal. Now Mike Scarborough, nuts over Cristobal. I get why he likes him. I get why you would like him. I don't personally like him. You know who my back the Brinks truck up guy is. Let's see here. Of current staff, who would at least Raymond and Joseph carry over? Those are the two guys you would carry over if you're going to carry over two. Maybe a guy like Blake Baker, but I get a feeling it's going to be more of a clean the house type situation. Without further ado, we're going to do a little film study here, because we all like film studies. Those have been very popular the last few weeks. We're going to take a look here at this weird 4th and 2 play. You've got trips left. Of course, one receiver is going to come in motion off here and kind of throw it off a little bit. What that's designed to do is reveal the coverage, because you've got 3 DBs here covering their trips left, and they are far off. I mean, that's like 8 or 9 yards off the ball there, right? So he could be a soft zone. He could be in a deep zone and you have some guys free running here. He could also drop into zone. But what we consistently saw all night was similar to this play. Here, there's 8 men in the box. Now, what we either saw 7 or 8, and 1 would stay back in this soft, almost like a quarterback sneak area, but you can also cover some crossing route and stuff over the middle. So here we're going to see Mike Jones doing that. Who? Oh yeah, Mike Jones. Anyways, so we're going to see that, and you've got your running back out here, and you have a tight end, and then you're going to have a receiver come in motion, and those are your 5 eligible guys. So Tramonte Jones all night, his strategy was put 5 on 5, covering the players, and get 1 guy on block, get some pressure on the quarterback, because he had done his scouting on Bryce Young and saw the flaws that we're about to see. 4th and 2, 7-0 ball game. A lot's on the line here. In this second quarter, you've been down for a little while. Like there's some pressure here to get it. Let's see what happens. Snap the ball, motion. He's identified that this is now man coverage because 29 follows him follows 8 up the field, right? So we got man coverage identified. So there's certain advantages that when you have man coverage across the board. Certain advantages, certain routes can be highly advantageous on. Now it's a soft man because they're all 8-9 yards back. So a traditional seam fade route, not exactly the look you're going for there. So what we see here, fast forward a little bit, he does some sort of check down, but it's not the check down you want, because look right here. I see this, you need 2 yards. Okay. And I audible out to a rub route. Okay. Get your receiver on the line, go out left or even up, and then have your Y receiver here, because he's off the line of scrimmage, cut in, catch the ball, go upfield. You've got 1 read on that because neither one of these guys can stop it. Does your outside rusher drop into an outside zone coverage, or does he blitz? Very quick and easy read. Okay. I mean, absurdly quick and easy read. If he blitzes, dump it off right there. Now you're going to see they do something a little different. It's like he didn't want to call into any checkdowns here. Steps up. By the way, that's open right there. His eyes are glued over here. And it's not glued on the right guy, because we're about to see what happened. Of course, LSU does blitz. LSU does blitz all but 1, drops back. You got the deep safety there, and Mike Jones is going to be in coverage there. Receiver cuts over in the middle, and essentially Bryce Young kind of panics because he's got 1, 2, 3. Finally, some pressure. Gosh, dog it. That's amazing. They get some pressure. But he goes with his receiver in the crossing here. What he doesn't pay attention to, which is a weird spot for that zone coverage, but there's Mike Jones doing it, kind of off base. He does that. Here's his problem. Blitzer, you need 2 yards. Your running back is uncovered. Check down. By the way, look at the bottom of your screen. Open receiver. He's not looking and finding the right guy because he's freaking out. He's panicked. What does he do? Throws it right up the middle. Incomplete. And that's kind of the story we saw all night. Of course, a few times he did actually beat that and throw it deep and get the touchdown on a seam or something like that. And that's the weakness of running that, that cover 0 type defense. But it was something new. He did not adjust well. He did not react quickly. That is a young quarterback looking like a young quarterback. And kudos to Tramonte Jones for watching film and seeing that might be a problem. And he brought it, and he continued to bring it all freaking night. So I'm going to get to a handful of comments. Of course, don't forget to hit the like, comment, share, all that good stuff. Hit the like on my YouTube. I really want more likes on YouTube because I'm getting made fun of by Mike Scarborough, and I don't like being not better than him at anything. That is how we roll. But I'm going to go through a few more comments, and then we're going to hop off. But I'm going to say if you didn't watch the very beginning of the show because you were watching a basketball game, I'm going to ask you, just stay on, jump to about 3 or 4 minutes. Ryan Aber, his interview, he gave some amazing insight on Lincoln Riley. And I'm really going to compel you to just go watch that. So some quick comments. Let's see here. We need someone who's known for working with QBs. I agree. I want someone who can develop quarterbacks. Guys who can develop quarterbacks tend to know scheme and play calling. Why don't you guys just go out and get Nick Saban? That's not a serious comment. I'm not even going to address that. It's dumb. Preston, who would you suggest as an offensive guru besides Lincoln? I have always thought Urban. I'm from Louisiana, but I live in Ohio. All was not what it seemed before before his encounter at the bar, I'll call it. And if his wife forgives, why can't we? Well, here's the deal, Gary. It's a bad look Title IX wise. And if you're going after Urban Meyer, you're ignoring a lot of baggage. And that being said, I think Urban Meyer has won at a high enough level to kind of merit ignoring that baggage. But there's also health concerns. Is he burnt out? And I'm hearing that he is not just a very serious candidate, although I wouldn't mind going after him. If you want to know a backup offensive mind, because kind of my next couple backups are defensive minded guys. That's kind of like Luke Fickell is a guy I would absolutely love to see. The next best offensive mind I would like to see is Jimbo Fisher. And I understand that's unpopular. I understand you're going to lambaste me. I know. But ultimately, he's elevated the success of the programs he's been at. I think there's a bit of a ceiling at Texas A&M, and he's doing his best. I get his offenses take a while. I get people aren't nuts about it, but he did have some success at Florida State, multiple first-round quarterbacks, and why he hadn't been able to find a quarterback at Texas A&M, I don't know. But I'm going to tell you this. I promise you, you can do a lot worse. Good show, Joseph Fuselier. Nuss bus. Yeah, I agree with you, Joseph. I think it is time to give Nuss a little bit of reps. Now, I think at Alabama, you shouldn't have started him, but it was obvious he should have gotten some reps. Dane Bergeron. Hey, Dane, what's going on, man? Dane is a TigerBait subscriber who gives me a lot of good feedback and direction for the show. All the smoke is on Jimbo, which means it's Riley or Tucker. Hey, look, I kind of get that vibe. You're man, guys. Look, I don't have any facts or information to back up that saying that this will happen. Okay, I don't. And here's the fact of the matter. Anybody who says they truly know what's going on with this coaching search is full of crap. You know why? Nobody knows. There's no insider with a guy who knows. No, nobody knows because Woodward's doing a good job. He's got his lips sealed. He's not like dummy Joe Oliva blabbing his mouth out there and letting this leak to that. And then all this news gets out there, man. He's tight-lipped. He's scheming behind the scenes. Got something a brewing, okay? And nobody really knows. That's why you've heard so much different stuff from informed people with good sources all over the place. Nobody actually knows. That being said, I don't know. I have a gut feeling. I just feel it in my gut. They're going to go after Lincoln Riley. I have a gut feeling about it. I could be wrong, and that's okay. I'm okay to be wrong. I try to have my opinions and thoughts and back up with logic. And if I have logic that backs it up, I'm okay being wrong. So we'll see. Let's see here. Is Herman a serious option? The answer is no. Understood. Thanks, Preston. All right. Is Arkansas a safe game to have Nussmeier start or play against? I know you stated Alabama was not the opponent to have him play against, and you're right. It wasn't. And not have him start his first game in. I don't know if here's the deal. You're going to play them 50-50 this week, right? You don't start Nussmeier yet. He hasn't shown you enough to get a true start. Max Johnson has played serviceable. not incredible football, and it's actually taken a big step back in the latter half of the season. But he's been serviceable. And you can do a lot worse than Max Johnson. But give Nussmeier some reps. And if you evaluate the film and you say, man, after giving Nussmeier some shots out there, he's the better quarterback based on this game's evaluation, give him the start against ULM. Go ahead. Give him that start. And by the way, LSU is playing for something. LSU's 4-5. They have to win one of these SEC games in ULM to make it to a bowl game or to preserve their chances of having a winning season of 500 or above. They've got the second longest streak in the country. It's a big deal, I'd say, right behind Oklahoma. Oklahoma has one season longer that they've had consecutive 500 or above seasons. LSU was 500 last year, and I told you it was a big deal last year. I'm telling you it's a big deal this year. But then subsequently, it's also a big deal if you're 6-6. Go out and go win your bowl game, 7-6. That preserves a lot of good things for your program. So I think these wins are important. So that's how I handle quarterback. Give Max Johnson like 2-3 drives, then turn to Nussmeier, evaluate them, and go from there against ULM. ULM's the perfect team to give a true freshman his first start. That's how I handled it. Why is Arkansas a better game versus Alabama? Hold up. Better game. It's not. That's the answer. Start. On the road in Tuscaloosa is a rough place to get your first start. But at a certain point, I think you should turn to Nussmeier. When Orgeron says he wanted to preserve his red shirt and there's one more game he got left to play, what better experience are you getting than Alabama in a one-score game for a true freshman? If you legitimately think that he could give you a better chance to win in that spot, don't preserve his red shirt for what? A couple come on now. I mean, really? What are you preserving it for? That's the spot. You could have really used him there. Like legit, like seriously used him, not like forced him into action because you wanted to chest some things out. No, man. Yeah, I think they should have gone with it. Let's see here. No way Lincoln leaves for LSU. That'd be a step down the job ladder. That is because, Nathan, you have not researched quite the modern histories of the programs right now. LSU is a program with better recruiting advantages. It's a program that's won 3 championships since Oklahoma has won its last. They did it with 3 different head coaches. I think LSU's the better job. Oklahoma's a good job. I think I looked at it. I think I put Oklahoma about the 7th best job in the country. There's nothing to scoff at that. And it is serious that, like, would someone leave the 7th best job for the 3rd best job? Or I think LSU's the 4th best job, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But if he's going to leave for somewhere in college, I think this is kind of like it. He's not, I mean, Alabama's probably a really good job. I don't think he's going to go follow Nick Saban's footsteps. Are you kidding me? I don't know. I think if Lincoln Riley were to ever leave, this would be it. I'm not saying he will. But I do think LSU will offer a 10-year, $12 million. And you heard Ryan Abers say Oklahoma has too much pride to do something like that. Let's see here. You guys really downplay OU. It's understandable, but funny nonetheless. No, you're fool to downplay OU. I mean, OU's a very respectable program with sustained long-term success. They have the longest winning streak of winning seasons in college football. Don't downplay them, but I do think LSU is a slightly better job. And that is why the LSU might have a better shot. There is a perception that Lincoln Riley has a ceiling that he can't break through because he keeps on getting to the SEC and doesn't have the Jimmies and Joes to keep up when he gets there, when company like Mr. Burrow and Mr. Clyde running down their throats all day. So there's a little bit of that perception going on. There's also should he cash in his equity while it's at an all-time high? because he's joining the SEC and that win percentage is probably going to go down a little bit? Or does he bank on the resources going up at Oklahoma and this being where he wants to be? I don't know. But I'm going to tell you, if he wants to cash in, his stock's at like an all-time high right now. So anyways, this has been the LSU Football Fix. Guys, if you're watching and you missed the first 20 minutes of this show, just wait till I hit this end button. Go rewatch it. You can jump to about the 3-4 minute mark. Go listen to Ryan Aber talk about Lincoln Riley. It is compelling. It is good stuff. I appreciate you all. Please hit that like button on YouTube. Also, if you are wanting to win one of the Tramonte gift cards, drop a comment, share on Facebook. Make sure I can see all your settings. Share it to a Facebook group, share it to friends, whatever you want. Just as long as I can see it, it counts. And I'll be drawing for a winner of the $25 gift card. You have to go to Tramonte's to get it. Thank you all for watching. Y'all check us out, TigerBait.com. Hit the like, comment, share, bell, subscribe to our YouTube channel. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for giving us 9,000 YouTube subscribers. And y'all all have an incredible evening.